parties in favour of assisted dying who say, well, actually, this should apply to people with neurological diseases. In Canada, the law is under review yet again within a very short period of time to include people with mental illnesses. So in a way, the only way you would ever please anybody with an assisted dying law is if there were no rules at all and anybody could apply. Now, nobody wants that, of course. But so I think legal challenges, as we've seen in Canada, even the much touted Oregon assisted dying laws have been challenged in recent years. They've been modified slightly, not as radically as in Canada, but they've been changed. But who's to say that a future government may not see this? Part of the inspiration for writing Shaking Hands with Elvis came because of the deaths that I'd experienced, but also we'd been through COVID. Where the elderly were perhaps not looked after, where they were perhaps seen as expendable, and the future COVID inquiries will examine that. But it was seen that they were not as valued in terms of keeping the economy going. So if we look at the demographics, and I looked into all of this when I was doing the research into the book, by 2050, a quarter of the population of the UK will be over 65. Now, we know that the NHS is under stress in terms of its ability to provide services and its funding. A future government has got to make those decisions. It was interesting, the intervention by West Street, and of course, the debate did start to get heated at that stage. But I think he made a very valid point that there is a finite budget. If we are talking about and we are talking in percentage terms a small number of people who might qualify for this condition of being able to have assisted death because they've got less than 6 months to live. If you look at the number of deaths in the UK per year, it's a minuscule amount. Does that detract from the care for the rest? The other thing that I think is very, very absent from this debate, nobody talks about the numbers. So, for example, in Canada, 4% of deaths are currently assisted dying. That's within 8 years of the rule coming in. If we sort of translated that to the UK, that would mean, say, in 10 years' time, you're looking at, say, 25,000 deaths a year by assisted dying. If the parameters are widened, as it will be in Canada, to include mental illnesses, you've got people call it the slippery slope. I've heard it better described as a ski slope.
Okay. Well, I can only cite, Paul, let me jump in. I can only cite again, and you may well be right about this, but, I mean, Kim Leadbeater certainly went out of her way to say that this would not be open season on being endlessly adjusted or parameters changed. She was adamant about that, and she made the absolute remark, which I have no reason to doubt, that it would require another act of Parliament. So it would be parliamentarians, not judges or lobbyists or campaigners or whatever. Let me just ask you, as we conclude our conversation here, the present system then, so you say, let's park this, let's not go down this road, let's not support this particular bill. But the system we have at the moment, the multiple systems of the opportunity to go and use Dignitas, the suicides that Kim Leadbeater and others have cited, the effectively relations getting away with murder, technically, but actually they're let off in the end. That's messy, isn't it? Do you advocate we stay with those imperfections and confusing system we have right now?
It is a very complex situation. I think we need more palliative care. That's woefully deficient in this country. I think that's a good starting point. But I think, back to the point, once something like this is law, you've moved, the Overton window, as I say, the expectations. You've desensitized people to the idea of assisted dying, and so that has to then come up. Anybody just with a diagnosis, it could be a benign illness, but as soon as that diagnosis is made, then the wheels are in motion for that family, that patient, their carers, as to, is this an option we should be considering? And I think that widens the net and brings too many people into it. And I don't think, with the best will in the world, that a politician cannot say what a future parliament may do.
Paul Carroll, thank you for spending a few minutes with us. Appreciate your time and your point of view. 10:37. Other bits of news, Devon. Other bits of news, Devon. Other bits of news, Devon. Other